Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by Lucas Oil and TireRack.com. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Thank you, Alec Webb. Welcome, everyone, to MotorWeek podcast number 289. And in Studio C at MotorWeek World Headquarters, I'm with Brian Robinson, Jessica Ray, and Alex Kellum. And Jessica, we're going to start with you. We've got three vehicles to run down, a lightning round, a viewer question. 2022 Audi RS3. I don't know about you. I thought it was a lot of fun, but tell us about it.
I mean, I'd have to agree. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think it's this really nice, compact sports sedan.
It's kind of like the new definition.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks fantastic. We had it in like a really cool blue color that I liked a lot. It looks really nice inside out, and we had the opportunity to take it to Summit Point. Now, Greg did a majority of the driving for that, but I personally was able to take a couple laps myself, and it really was like so much fun. Like, there's a lot of power to it. Obviously, it's got 401 horsepower, and it has a very interesting powertrain that we don't see elsewhere. It has an inline 5-cylinder engine.
I honestly didn't know that anyone was still making a 5-cylinder at that point.
Yeah, just Audi at this point.
I have no idea like the history behind 5-cylinders and what they're.
I think it was developed originally just because they needed an engine to fit in something, but anyway.
Yeah, because it is a compact sports sedan, so not a lot of space, but it's incredible. Yeah, like really powerful. It sounded really good as well, and I just felt like there was a lot of grip. It was really. I had to kind of adjust my thinking a lot when I was driving it too, because it is so small. But it was really fun, and the course that we were on was very technical, so a lot of turns. And I was also at this like one spot where there's like a jump, and this is when Greg was driving, of course, but he got a fair bit of air.
Going. He got some air under the tires.
He did. So it was just like a really fun vehicle. I will say that after a certain point, I felt like the brakes were probably not the best on this car for what our track purposes, but that didn't really change anything with our straight line braking test. We still got 101 feet average braking for that, so not everybody is going to be whipping around a racetrack like we are. But yeah, just like I think overall, it was just checked all the boxes.
For people that are not familiar, RS is the top performance nomenclature for an Audi, and the RS3 is their entry-level vehicle. And I think Brian Robinson's probably had more experience with Audi RSs over the years than anyone else. Did this car live up to its name?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about the engine somewhat. Very unique character to it. Puts a smile on your face no matter what speed you're going. The big thing with the RS vehicles, all of them, and this one in particular, Audi seems to nail the drive modes, I think, more than anybody else. As in, there is definite delineation between them, and so you can hammer that thing at the track all day in whatever sport mode, put it in comfort for the drive home, and it drives like a luxury car. So I think it nails that as well.
And as usual, just a terrific interior. Audi I think they just still do the best interiors of anybody around. Alex, anything?
Not much. I didn't get to spend too much time in it, but the little bit that I did, I actually wanted to bring up the interior because, again, you were mentioning like on the ride home, it feels like a luxury car that extends well beyond just having the, the drive modes and whatnot. I mean, the interior was plush. All the like infotainment, the electronics, it felt seamless to me. The user interface, I enjoyed it. I didn't have any of these weird quirks where it was hanging up. That's something that bugs me a lot in a lot of cars. Well, I'm sure it bugs everybody. It just felt great to drive.
In a world where the so-called compact sports sedan has gotten to midsize and above, this just seemed like a little bit of a throwback and very welcomed. I got in it and I felt like not so much I was wearing it, but it just felt cozy, if you know what I mean.
And starting price is like just around $60,000 for the RS3.
Which sounds like a lot, but in this day and age, it's not terrible. And of course, you can get a 3 for a lot less.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess if you look at the other competition too, it's sort of priced right there. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to a car that I did not expect. When I first heard they were bringing back the Toyota Crown name, I was taken by a bit of a surprise. And then when I saw the car, I was even more surprised, since it has very little resemblance to the original Crown. But Brian Robinson, why don't you give us the lowdown on the return of the the return of the Toyota Crown for the 2023 model year?
Absolutely, and you hinted at it. The Crown was actually the first sedan that Toyota ever made.
I believe that's right.
Yes.
In the 1950s, and it's been on sale in Japan ever since. This is actually the maybe 17th or 16th generation of the Crown. But we did have it here in the 70s, I think, in the U.S., but it's been gone ever since.
I don't think it went over very well. Sorry.
Yeah, well,
I don't remember.
Just to give you a picture of what it looks like, and then we'll get more into where it fits. But if you picture a Maxima and a Legacy combined, and with a really weird front end put on, that's kind of what it looks like.
This is the new one or the old one?
This is the new one. Yeah.
Just kidding.
So if you're familiar with the Toyota Avalon, that's going away. They're no longer making the Avalon, and this is somewhat its replacement. I'm not sure what the average age buyer of the Avalon was, but imagine it was in the 80s probably, right?
It has room in the trunk for a walker.
So they obviously would. Now, if I put stuff like that in road test, that definitely does not make it on the air. I'm just letting you know.
I just made a statement of fact.
Right.
That's all. It has a big trunk. That's all.
The Crown also has a big trunk, but this is more to replace the Avalon, but bring that average buyer way down with a more stylish and more adventure-ready sedan, built more for empty nesters who want to go hit the road in a very luxurious sedan, but are also willing to take that adventure that comes up along the way. So all of them are all-wheel drive. That's where the Subaru Legacy aspect comes in. And all of them are hybrid. There's two different. There's a standard powertrain with 236 horsepower. Gets really good fuel economy. I think in the mid-40s, low 40s. The Hybrid Max, similar to what they did with the Tundra, not the same powertrain as the Tundra, but has an all-new 2.4-liter turbo engine, which you can now get in the Highlander as well. Just the engine, not the Hybrid Max, but that puts out 340 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. So it feels really powerful.
You sacrifice some fuel economy.
It only gets like 30 mpgs, still not bad, but certainly not what most people would associate
That's
with hybrid.
probably 5 or 6 more than the Avalon did.
And you get a lot more. You can only get that in the top platinum trim, but you get a lot more with it. You get an adaptive variable suspension from Lexus, which is very nice. Totally different driving experience with that compared to the standard model. And you also get a true 6-speed automatic transmission. Again, makes for a much better driving experience. So as far as back to what it looks like, their point was to make it to appeal to SUV buyers that still want a sedan.
Which is why they did a hatchback light.
It's kind of like, it is a sedan, but it looks like a hatchback. And it looks, it sits 4 inches taller than a Camry, based same chassis as Camry, obviously. But it's barely any more ground clearance. So it's not like
so
a
you got
jacked up.
SUV type seating.
You sit a little higher. The body you get more greenhouse. It makes for a little bit awkward looking vehicle. But I'm not sure how much, off-roading or anything like that you'll be doing, but they kind of are playing that up. But like I said, it barely has any more ground clearance. It just sits taller. There's more greenhouse. Whatever.
I wonder why they didn't actually go ahead and make a true hatchback. I guess that market maybe doesn't like hatchbacks. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they're practical, but people are just not buying them.
Sedans, you mean?
unfortunately. We'll like hatchback sedans.
No, they did. The word hatchback is got the same connotation as station wagon in this country.
But it drives really nice. It really bridges that gap between Toyota and Lexus, much like the Avalon did. One final note on the styling. If you get the top platinum, you can get this two-tone trim, which is essentially a black hood and a black roof, and then this big chunk of black on the tail, which, depending on the dark, like on the red and the copper, it looks okay. On some of the other colors, like white, it just looks really odd.
So Camry tried that as well.
It looks really odd, but
for all my friends out there that own Avalons, I apologize. You know who you are.
That was definitely John saying that. No.
Yes, it wasn't anything that Brian wrote. I was taken aback by it when I saw it. To me, it looked, I don't know, just odd. It's not that we haven't seen our share of odd-looking vehicles lately, like the BMW iX, but it's just an odd-looking vehicle. But of course, the Avalon buyer is primarily looking for room. They're looking for, of course, dependability. They're looking for comfort. They like the high seating position, probably. So I think it actually checks off all the boxes and gives them something with the standard all-wheel drive they really didn't have before. So
yeah, but if you're looking to replace a vehicle that wasn't as popular as you wanted, you think you maybe would make it a little better looking? I don't know.
We always talk about styling being very subjective,
it could be like a lot of, oddly enough, could be like a lot of people's cup of tea. You know, they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, because even though you said it has like no additional ground clearance than a normal sedan, people are like, oh,
but it looks like it.
Look at it.
It looks like it does.
And it's not like they're going off the beaten track. The biggest, thing that they're going to go over is a small curb or something.
So
starting price is right at 50. 40. Sorry, right at 40.
And it's a big
starting price is right at 40. 50 for the Platinum. Yeah.
And it's a big mid-size / full-size sedan. I mean, it's a big sedan.
It's firmly full size. Yeah. Yeah, firmly full size.
So to all of you Pontiac Aztec owners out there that are looking to replace your vehicle, maybe this is something you should consider. And I know I'm going to get a lot of criticism on that, too.
Most people won't even know what Aztec was, so they're not.
The owners will.
They're Googling it right now.
Well, let's move. We're going to move on, and we've got one more car we're going to talk about, and it's probably really the car of the week, if not the month or the year. But we're going to come back to that. Alex will give us a preview on the newest of a rare breed, and that is a true two-seat sports car. But first, we're going to get to a couple of other things. We've got a lightning round and a viewer question. And our lightning round is based on some new information that just came our way recently. StoreDot, a pioneer of extreme fast-charging battery technology for electric vehicles, has recently stated that mass-produced solid-state batteries, those are ones that don't have any liquid on the inside, the electrolyte is solid, are still at least a decade from mass production, and the global automotive manufacturers should be considering interim technologies in the medium term, such as semi-solid batteries. Do you think this will hinder EV adoption? As a little background, some automakers have said that these solid-state batteries, which promise more charge for longer range, but most importantly, very quick charging, are only 5 years away. We've heard that some of the government labs say it's much longer. And now here's someone who actually markets electric batteries saying, don't pause and just wait for it around the corner. It's at least a decade away. Is this going to hinder what we're seeing in EV adoption, which right now is up to about 7% of the market in this country?
I'll go first since everyone's looking at me. I don't think it will hinder anything really. I think we're still in the slow adoption phase, and a lot of it comes down to while there's more and more EVs coming out, manufacturers aren't really building that many of them.
Talk about that.
Oh, well, just like you hear about them and then you go and you try to put a deposit on one, and it's like all 23s are sold out now, placing orders for 24. So It's going to be at least a year away almost no matter what you order So we're already in that slow trickle phase. So I don't see how it would hinder the growth that much. That's my opinion.
Anybody have another comment?
I mean, I think in like a long-term sense, we're talking a decade away. So, 5 years from now, we have no idea like what the new car market is going to look like. Hopefully, at that point, the production will have bounced back significantly, but we have no idea. And ideally, 5 years from now would be when a lot of people would be at a point where the infrastructure is better. Cars are more available. Maybe we're supposed to have a couple more affordable EVs coming within the next 2-3 years. So ideally, EV adoption should significantly ramp up with a lot of these things. But I do think there are a lot of people who are waiting on this technology, and they think, I'm not going to buy an EV until there's the solid state. And even if they don't have any idea of what a solid state battery is, they are thinking of the same concepts that they have, like faster charging. I want to be able to charge a battery the same amount of time that I want to go to a gas station. And while logically, when we think about battery technology, that's very difficult for like us to rationalize, being the experts, and also the different ways in which you can charge an EV. This is, that's what it's going to take for certain people to buy them.
Or at least for them to go from being a second vehicle for around town use to being the only vehicle they've got for every use.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think Jessica just hit the nail on the head. To me, it kind of just goes back to the dialogue of, as technology, or at least, what people are saying is as technology continues to grow, more people are going to want to adopt these systems. And you're right. There's a lot of things right now that people can point at and say, oh, well, it takes X amount of time to charge, or, oh, how long is the battery going to last? Like the lifespan of the car, I mean, not just range, but range, of course, the safety aspect of it. I believe the solid states are supposed to be safer just because, they're not using the liquid. So there's a lot that goes into it. And you're right. I think there's a lot of people that'll look at this system and say, well, I want to wait for that. But as we've seen, there are people that aren't going to wait. Just like with any technology, there are people that see the EVs and go, I want that now. And they go and buy it. So I don't think it's going to hinder the adoption. I just think when this technology becomes more prevalent, more and more people are going to have less reasons to say, okay, I don't want to do that. Or like you said, that's not my primary.
But think about it. If we're really talking about, all the California rules and everything else that are pushing for pretty much total EV adoption by 2035, that's about right.
Sure. Yes.
That's about right. They'll just about be starting to emerge on the market by that time.
And you and I were talking about this kind of off yesterday about how lithium ion was kind of the same way, right? The nickel metal hydride batteries were out, and then they're like, oh, lithium ion is coming soon, but nickel metal hydride was used for probably
20
plus years, in vehicles before lithium ion came along. So I think we might be in the middle of that change with the solid states.
And people don't realize that practical lithium-ion batteries took probably about 50 to 60 years to really be developed. I mean, you can go back into the 1960s and see the automakers like Ford working feverishly on new battery technologies, and they hadn't even discovered lithium yet. But somewhere in the 80s or 90s, it started getting practical for things like laptops and stuff, and the rest is history.
And now we have them in little teeny tiny batteries and pretty much everything we own.
So let's transition to our viewer question, which also has to do with battery-powered vehicles. And this is a pretty interesting question, and it's a very good one. This is an email from Saeed. Why the delay to hybrids or full-electric suburban-class vehicles? Yukon, Escalade, Expedition XL. He says he has ordered a Tesla Cybertruck, but ideally he'd love to have a turbo diesel 4 for highway cruising and a battery with a legitimate 50-mile battery range, a PHEV, plug-in hybrid. The underpinnings of the F-150 or the Silverado electrics are the same as the big three normal vehicles, aren't they? Well, not quite. He said, I know there is a Tahoe hybrid, but I really want 3 rows with space for luggage. So really the question here is, Why aren't we seeing a move towards a plug-in hybrid in a full-size SUV, 3-row, et cetera? We know there's some fully electrics coming, but why this gap?
That's a good question.
Okay, well, I'll start.
You want to start?
I'll start. When the manufacturer looks at the realities of today with all the supply chain problems and the impending rules from California for EV adoption, where there a plug-in hybrid will have to have at least a 50-mile range to be counted, they're all saying the complexity of that, and I've got so many more parts, and I can't get parts now, I'm going to take the course of least resistance, which is to go all electric with fewer parts. And that's certainly what GM is doing. I think that's what Volvo's doing and some others. So they're just saying, we know we can sell every EV we make right now. Why do I want to put resources there? And I personally, as a consumer, would love to have something that's got a lot more range as a plug-in hybrid, but I think I understand the argument.
Yes, basically what I was kind of thinking is like, why invest in that if, like you said, the market's starting to trend more towards just EVs? Why would a manufacturer say, well, this niche of the market, let's cater to that for now? I mean, it'd be great to see more. I think we're skipping hybrids in a lot of ways, but
Oh, I think we are too. I think Mr. Toyoda summed it up a few weeks ago when he said that he disagrees with the California rules, and which will likely be adopted by up to 20 more states, because he said if you wanted to reduce carbon footprint, he said you can sell 3 just regular hybrids and do a better job than just selling 1 electric, as far as, because you'd be, doubling or tripling fuel economy. So I do think that the governmental rules maybe are look great politically, but they don't make common sense.
Well, in this class, it's like very difficult too, because these are vehicles that see a lot of time on the highway. They get, I mean,
And people expect a lot from them, like towing.
They do towing, cargo space. Batteries infringe on a lot of that, so it makes it difficult. Which is why it always is. I understand that and the engineering of it is quite complicated, but seeing like an additional 5 to 10 miles per gallon in that full size class, going from I will say that the new Wagoneer is supposed to get 24 miles per gallon on the highway, which I think is some of the best that you can get in the class. I mean, if you could get over 30 miles per gallon on the highway in a full size SUV, something with 3 rows that was like a Tahoe sized, that would do a significant, or it would dig into that, like the emissions issue, because, just adding an additional 5 miles per gallon on something like that is a significant change. So to me, it's a bummer that the technology isn't. They've done wonders with the V8s, and the fact that 20 years ago we were getting 12 miles per gallon in some of these things, and now we can get over 20 miles per gallon, I think is great. But it has to be better, especially if these are vehicles that get driven 200,000 miles in 5 years or in 7 years. So.
What about the new Tundra powertrain, the hybrid powertrain? I mean, Toyota's already put that into one of the SUVs, right?
Sequoia.
Yeah. So, but it didn't seem to boost its fuel economy that much.
No, it's more about delivering more power
For towing and so forth.
Yeah, kind of replacing the V8 with a 6-cylinder.
6-cylinder.
Yeah, but he wants a legitimate 50-mile range.
PHEV.
And a vehicle that big would require a substantial amount of battery, which you just keep adding weight, which
Motor
You gotta have
plus
the
a
fuel.
battery.
You gotta have a fuel tank
Fuel,
and a big
engine,
battery.
battery, electric
it's tough.
motor.
It's tough with a vehicle that size. If you want to get 50-mile range, in a compact car, it doesn't require a whole lot of battery. It's much easier to accomplish. It's tough on a vehicle this big that already weighs 6,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So, Syed, I'd probably, that would be something that if they ever do develop a practical solid-state battery, or go the next step and be able to put electric charge on a chip, it might be more practical. Right now, the weight of all these vehicles is going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we will see, I mean, I don't know who's going to be the first. Well, we know the first to launch a 3-row. It's Rivian.
Yeah.
They have the R1S. But I think next up, if I'm not
Hyundai.
mistaken, is going to be, the EV9.
Yeah. Yep.
So, which is a funky looking thing. And I can't wait for us to actually see the real production vehicle in person. But Kia, is it Kia?
Yeah.
Oh,
Kia's
Kia EV9, yes.
The Hyundai basically showed the
What's-
first concept. I've forgotten what
Do
it's
we know
called.
what it's
I don't remember the name.
Is it
Ioniq
kind of an
something?
Ionic?
They've shown the concept.
But
yeah,
so-
Ioniq, so-
Yeah, and then like VinFast, I think has a
VinFast.
Cannot forget about
Nice.
Vince.
You can.
Yes, I mean, they're building a giant plant in the Carolinas to make 3 EV models for the U.S. and they've already shown their biggest 3-rower. And
Once we
they're,
start seeing them,
you know,
on the roads,
they're.
maybe.
I don't know when their arrival is imminent. They say
I thought it was like end of this year.
first of next year, end of this year.
Okay.
yeah. So,
So those are the few that are
and we don't have a clue on pricing yet. I don't think.
no.
Now we're going to circle back, and Alex has been sitting here holding the paper in his hands. He's just
I'm ready.
he's got some air underneath himself on the seat. He's ready to talk about the all-new 2023 Nissan Z 2-seat sports car. I guess we can call it all new. Here we go, Brian. The perfectionist. Okay, the engine's
Let's
got
start arguing already.
got some
That's PR
carryover.
speak.
The frame's got some carryover, but a new
The
generation.
looks have a little bit of carry.
Well, the looks has got a lot of carryover. The new Z. Alex, take it away.
Yes. Okay. So we'll start with the most obvious thing, or at least obvious to me. It's very cool.
It's great. It's a great looking car.
It absolutely plays on nostalgia, as a lot of things do. I don't care. It was cool. I've driven a lot of cool cars at this job. Not to brag, I think I own a cool car, but this thing got me the most attention. Now that might be because of the highlighter yellow paint and the
Yeah,
bronze wheels for our proto spec tester, but we'll get to that. Let's start with the common denominator. All models, regardless of which trim you get, you're going to get a twin-turbo 3-liter V6. It's 400 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. You can either have a 6-speed manual or a 9-speed automatic. That is a no-cost option, at least to my understanding. So you can get either, which, you know, enthusiasts rejoice. It's rear-wheel drive, of course, and it's a 2-seater. Okay, so it is mostly
It's
all
mostly new.
It's got a lot of new to it, but one of it's using a modified, updated, whatever-ified you want to call it, platform from the outgoing 370, which I believe was modified off of the 350. So
and
we're
the
looking
6-cylinder basic engine's been around forever.
right. So we're.
But
now
still.
it's got new bracing. It's stronger. It has less flex, so it has been updated, but it's an old platform. Speaking of that, if we want to compare it to the outgoing 370, just to give you an idea, dimensionally, it's 172.4 inches long. The old one, 168, but it shares the same wheelbase, 100.4. 72.5 inches wide and basically 52 inches tall. The car right now that this is being compared the most to is the Toyota Supra. I would say that's the one that everyone is saying, what's it like compared to the Supra? So size-wise, they're almost the same. The Supra is just a hair longer at 172.5, but the wheelbase is a little shorter at 97.2. Horsepower, and this is where things get a little more interesting. So the Supra, if we're talking about the 6-cylinder, the inline 6, 382 horsepower, 368 pound-feet of torque. While the Supra does start, and I'm going to get into MSRPs on the Z, but while the Supra does start around like the low 40s, like 43, that is for the 2-liter 4-cylinder.
Yeah, the new.
With the Z, like I mentioned, every single trim, which the starting one does start around that price as well. I think a little bit lower, actually. You get that twin turbo 6. So, you know, maybe it's purely a testosterone thing. You know, you want the bigger engine, but something to consider. Our Proto Z in particular starts at 54-ish grand. That's with the destination charge.
And that is the lowest price we have talked about, I think, on today's podcast.
And there you go.
Oh, no, the Crown was 40,000.
Okay, sorry. I stand corrected.
Come on.
I stand corrected.
It happens. But the Proto Z is limited to 240 units nationally. You know, 240. You see what they did there?
Yeah.
LOL.
Yeah. The Nissan Z Sport, which is the entry trim, is at the lower. It's like 41,000, and the Z Performance is at 51.
So that's almost down at the price of the
Yeah, you know, we're getting
of
there.
the Crown.
The performance does add, I mean, it's a 10 grand difference, but our Proto Z, I mean, basically has all those goodies. So it's like a mechanical limited slip diff, 19-inch raise, wheels, though ours, of course, were that really slick bronze color. On the standard model, you'd get, I think it's 225 tires all the way around. The performance, you get staggered, 255 in the front, 275. The picture I'm trying to paint here is that in all ways, at least numerically speaking, it is a performance car. It's a little two-seater sports car.
Talk to me about what it looks
But
like. Give me the history of what it looks like.
Oh man. Well, that's the thing actually. So you look at it and you know, it's fresh, it's new. It doesn't look like, at least to me, it doesn't really look like the outgoing Z, but there's something about it. The only way I can describe it is, even though it is new, and the one we had, you know, probably a lot of people that saw it was the first one they saw in person, it is unmistakably Z. I mean, you look at it, everything from the headlights, it harkens back to the old Datsuns to me. The rear end especially, even down to the little Z emblem on the
badge on the
on the sail panel. It's just it's all there. And I mean, as a looker, it looks great. You go into the interior, and I mean, I'm a sucker for these things, but it's still got the three gauge pod like in the middle of the dashboard for like your turbo, your voltmeter, all that. And I just think that stuff's cool. Speaking of the interior, though, this is actually, in my opinion, where you start to get into the area where you can see its new wrappings, or you know, it's like teaching an old dog new tricks, right? There is a new like digital like gauge cluster, which is really nice. I really liked it, but some of the materials to me weren't of the highest quality, in my opinion. That's just me. Things like that. I still really liked it. Still like the interior.
But you could see a few places where it was built to price.
Sure, and that's actually what I was going to say is like you can kind of see that like it's built to be in that price point, and I don't think it's gaudy or terrible or anything. It's just what it is. You know,
that's been its mission for like a long time. It was like an economical, I don't know, sports car.
How often do we see a concept? And my God, Brian, tell me how long ago we saw a concept of this thing. 5 years ago, maybe?
Yeah. Right about the time they stopped selling the 370.
You know, it looks just like the original, or it looks to me like the original concept. So they didn't change it a lot. They just took a long time for it to come out.
At the corner of my street, there is a guy who has an imported, so a right-hand drive Datsun 240, and it's in yellow. And I had to pull, the day I got to take it home, I had to pull up and talk to him. And it was just like, I mean, you can see all the similarities. It was great.
You know, it's history. It's beautiful. It's a true driver's car, I think, in a lot of ways. Although not everybody liked the way it drove. I did. How did you feel about it?
I didn't get a whole lot of time in it, but I thought it drove great. The interesting thing to me, I probably liked the interior maybe a little more than you did, Alex. I thought that was maybe the biggest improvement that I saw. Definitely a modern looking interior compared to the 370 and the 350. I don't know, we give them a hard time about calling it all new when it's really not, but at the same time, in order for Toyota to bring out a new Supra, they had to go to BMW for help. So like, which is better, going to BMW to help you make your Asian sports car, or steal from yourself and just make a much better version of what you had? I don't know, but I think as you mentioned, they definitely got the look right, and it's a better Z in every way.
I thought it was a little softer than the Supra, but I liked it. I still thought steering felt terrific.
Yeah, I think they did something with the electronic steering. It's like they updated it, and it did feel good. Yeah, I liked it. I think
I love the shifter. I thought
the shifting was great. The clutch felt great to me. It was very firm. I mean, the only thing I didn't really like about the whole driving experience for me personally was like moving my feet around, the footwork. And not that the pedals were claustrophobic, but I mean, you got to remember, I wear giant clown shoes, so it's my foot's getting caught on things, and I'm just like, okay, But outside of that, I think if you were daily driving this thing, you would love it. You take it on a spirited drive on the weekend, you are going to love it. If you push it, you'll probably find those limits, but you'll probably do that in a lot of cars.
I always felt the Z was like a daily drive, like could very easily be a daily driver. my dad had a 350, and that was probably one of my like favorite cars to drive as a 16-year-old. Just
Oh, wow.
I was a
Are
lucky
you
duck.
cool?
I was a lucky duck. But it was, I was driving an Altima. That was my daily. So
Oh.
it was a treat to be able to drive the 350. But yeah, no, that was always a fun car. I didn't get to spend any time in this Z, unfortunately, but I think like they nailed the
and
styling.
she was too busy being in Italy driving Lamborghinis.
Oh, true.
So excuse
Yeah,
me.
Sorry.
But terrific looking car.
Oh, yeah.
I wish them all the best with it. Well, we have almost come to the end of this podcast, but we've come to the part where we talk about rant and raves, and we're sort of changing the way we do some of our rant and raves and looking at things that maybe manufacturers do, the things that in the industry that we can't always figure out why, rather than just, the nuisance driver who sits on your tail, constantly, because everybody, I think, drives that way now. So has anybody got a rant or a rave that has to be something maybe we've observed that's going on, or a trend or whatever?
I have something that is both,
Okay.
because depending on whether the manufacturer does it. I don't know what the technical term is, but your seats, like your driver's seat, where like underneath your thighs you can pull it out to make it longer. I love that.
Bottom extensions.
Yes.
Oh, I hate those.
I love those. More people do that, please. I love it.
BMW's had those for a long time, but other
I'm
I've seen it
uncultured,
recently.
so I don't know,
It seems to be popping up again.
Yeah.
I think I've seen them in Lincolns. The luxury cars have them, obviously.
Yeah.
I
But-
just like them.
Well, they.
Too many
I actually think that's an argument between people with long legs and people with short legs.
That might
Yeah.
be it. That might be it.
I mean, that's the whole point, to get more thigh support from the seat. Yeah.
I like them when they're there, as long as they basically have a lot of adjustment, where you don't have lots of little dedicated stops so that you can't really get it just exactly the way you want.
Right, and they tend to be the ones, particularly the BMW ones, because it's kind of the material's kind of dished out there, so they're basically crumb catchers as well.
Yeah, no, he's
I
right.
hadn't thought of that.
No.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
That's a good one.
So that's something you like.
I can
Rave.
see where it could be done wrong and it could turn into a rant, but like I think the Audi has it.
The one we have right now, the
the
e-tron.
Q4?
Yeah, and actually I think the RS3 had it too.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
and any car I get in, look, it doesn't have to be fancy. It'll be manual adjusting.
I
love
think
it.
I've only
It's
seen
great.
it on like leather seats. I don't think I've seen it on a vehicle with cloth seats. But then again, usually that's like a premium. It's like a premium
Sure.
option. So like a leather-esque seat would.
Could be a wear
Make more
situation
sense.
too.
Yeah.
So anyone else?
I do have. I have
was
a
waiting
rant.
for this.
Everybody knows I'll come up with some sort of rant. No, but it's funny because John and I were having a conversation yesterday, and I was talking about how I was looking on the PlugShare app, which is a great app if you have an electric vehicle of any type, because it's pretty much like the gold standard of finding
it looks
chargers.
at all network chargers.
And so I was looking at it the other day, and I did not see a single fast charger over 50 kilowatts on the eastern shore of Maryland, over the Bay Bridge, or in the southern part of Delaware. And
All right,
when I say
now-
southern part of Delaware, I mean most of Delaware below Wilmington.
All right. To be fair, now we're in Owings Mills, Maryland, so we're in the Mid-Atlantic area. But I have to tell you, what you're getting ready to say is pretty much true up and down most of the East Coast. Go ahead.
Yes. So I kind of thought, I thought to myself, I swear I had seen a 150 fast charger. My mom lives over on the Eastern Shore, so I go over there a fair bit. And I was like, I swear I had seen it. So I'm kind of like looking through the PlugShare app, and I'm like, all right, I'm pretty sure I knew there were charge point chargers. So I just toggled to just charge point chargers. And all of them popped up as a little, with a little wrench. And I look at some of the reviews, and none of the charge points, and ChargePoint had a partnership with Royal Farms, so they're at all these Royal Farms gas stations and stores, and all of the Royal Farms charge point stations, and there had to have been 10 to 15 of them in Delaware, on the eastern shore of Maryland, all of them were out of commission. And I was like, that's so weird. Why would every single one be out of commission? So I look a little bit deeper into the reviews, and somebody actually reached out to Royal Farms. Turns out ChargePoint changed from 3G to 4G without telling them, making all of their chargers that they had installed obsolete.
Well, that's, one of the things behind that is the cell phone companies dropped 3G in a lot of areas. Just, it was virtually overnight.
Well, it's also going to become an issue in a lot of vehicles from the early 2010s to mid 2010s.
If you've got
Lexus,
OnStar in an early vehicle, it doesn't work anymore. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. So, I thought that was crazy to think. And so, I believe at this point, Royal Farms is looking into other alternatives because now all of the chargers that they probably made a decent investment in putting into their stations are now unusable and will never be able to be used again as far as they are concerned. So they're looking into alternatives. I found that I kind of find that unacceptable because for those of you who don't live on the East Coast and don't live here in the Mid-Atlantic, Delaware and the eastern shore of Maryland are very big tourist destinations in the summertime. And so the fact that there are no fast chargers, literally now are no working fast chargers over 50 kilowatts is
Which is
crazy.
The difference between sitting there for 45 minutes or a lot longer.
Yes, exactly. And so, that's my rant. I'm really, really hoping that by next summer, there are some new fast chargers over there.
I was going to I've forgotten which vehicle it was. It was an electric vehicle we had in here. And driving to Ocean City, 130, 140 miles, something like that?
Yeah.
I basically said, okay, there's one charger in town. It's slow. I have to sit there for quite a long time, and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I was staying in an apartment, so I had no way to plug it in.
I will say, I mean, most EVs, we have a 250 mile, I would say average is like 250 mile range. I took the EQS sedan to my mom's house, which is probably like 140, 130 miles. I brought it there and back. Easy peasy because I had a 360 mile range. But the fact is, most EVs cannot do that. And while I had no issues with it, a majority of EVs that people own, even Teslas, which actually there are some Tesla superchargers, so it's not quite as big of a deal for the Tesla people, but for everybody else, it just really stinks. It just stinks.
I think that's about the most apper way to end one of our podcasts I've ever heard. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everybody. Today we did our podcast with the help of our two-wheeling reporter, Brian Robinson, our digital producer and the producer of the podcast, Jessica Ray, and, of course, our writer, Alex Kellum. And on the backside, making everything happen, our audio engineer, David Wainwright, who always makes us sound much better than we have any right to, and our podcast creator, Bob Mixter. To all of you out there that are new to our podcast, for more MotorWeek, please hop on over to our website at motorweek.org or .com. You pick. You can watch complete episodes of MotorWeek for free over at pbs.org/MotorWeek. We stream on an awful lot of platforms, but really, if you're a motorhead and you want to get into MotorWeek, please go over and follow us on YouTube, youtube.com. You can follow us on Facebook, too.
Yeah, you can.
youtube.com/MotorWeek. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of our features, our road test, our retro reviews.
It's actually thousands now.
Yeah,
I think we have
thousands,
over 4,000 videos.
I mean, if you want to get into MotorWeek, that's the place to go.
Oh, we also have a retro review marathon this weekend. I should have plugged that
It's
earlier.
a holiday
Sorry.
weekend.
No.
Well, why are we doing it? It is a holiday weekend.
Well, I guess technically.
It is now. It is now.
No, I'm thinking because so many
of Election
places have
Day?
Election Day on Tuesday.
Every time MotorWeek's on, it's a holiday.
There you go.
Well, it's just we
So
like
why
to do
are we
them
doing
at
it
the
this
first
weekend?
of the month.
First of the month.
First of the month.
Shows you how connected I am.
So yeah, we do them like the first weekend of the month, and so because this is the first weekend of November, we're doing one season 20, part 2. So reviews from 2000 and 2001. So turn of the century sort of stuff, getting into a lot of the quirkier road tests that we've done.
Now that means that Ben Davis, who basically is the one who is behind our retro reviews, has convinced Jessica that this is what we're going to do this weekend.
Yeah, he's in charge of that. I just like
you get the word out.
He just tells me, and yeah, I tell everybody else. So yeah, we have a retro review marathon this weekend, starting Saturday, November 5th at 8 a.m.
Are
Eastern
we going to
time.
do one over? The next one after that will probably be the 1st of December. We won't do one before or after Thanksgiving, probably.
I gotta get back to you guys and confirm on that
I
one.
think
Get
that's
back to you on the
I think
next
that's right.
podcast
I
for
think
that
that's
one.
right. I
But
think
we're
that's
definitely doing one every week in December.
There we go. That's what I was searching
Every
for.
week in December. We're starting from the early days. We're going back to season 1, 2, and 3, and 4. I believe.
And you can see all this sterling talent that was on the first season.
And how just energetic John was in those early days. You don't want to miss it.
No, you don't want to miss it, but you might go to sleep if you do watch it. Thanks, everybody. And remember out there, if you've got a screen or a phone, you can find MotorWeek. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And thanks for being a part of MotorWeek.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by Lucas Oil and TireRack.com. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series, each week on your local PBS station.